Run, Juanito, run. It is midday and you have important business. School is a time for refreshments, for jokes and laughter. It is a time for quietness, for pleasant games and gentle amusements. It is a fine day and school is out. It is a day, Juanito, and you have had your lunch. But your father is hungry. It is for this reason you run, leaving behind the games, the amusements. Run now for the food your mother has prepared. For also may eat and rest and refresh himself. This is the story of Juanito and his father Juan Tomas Garcia, and his mother Maria, his sister Petra, his little brother Jesus, and the baby Conchita. This is the story of a part of the United States, the island of Puerto Rico. The story of the people who live on that island. This is a land where many live by farming, where a man's living comes from tobacco or coffee or citrus or sugar. Whatever the crop, the work is hard, the sun is hot. The work is hard, the land is poor. It is difficult for a man to earn a living. This is the story of how people are, how they act with each other, how they are happy and contented or miserable and afraid, the problems they have. Island, the land itself, the poverty on the land, have much to do with the nature of a man, a woman, a child. But the nature of people, the way they are, grows out of other things too. It grows out of the feelings a man has, the way he feels toward the men he works with, toward his wife, his children. This is a story of some of those feelings that men and women have, how those feelings affect the children, how they help to mold the way a child grows, the way he develops into a man, the kind of man he will be. It is also the story of children and how they feel, and what the feelings of a child may do to the man or woman that the child will grow into. A child learns to be a man by playing, by imitating in his play the things men do, the way grown-ups act. They pretend to be men because it makes them feel good inside. It makes them feel more like the grown-ups they admire most. They show off as if to say, see what a man I am going to be, and this is good. Because it is in this way that a child learns to be a man. But sometimes, without knowing any better, the child imitates only the bragging, unhappy part of a man.
Que macho.
What a man. But is that being a man, a real man? Sometimes a boy never becomes a man because he never stops pretending. But not every boy must just show off. Juanito can play at being a man by sitting quietly and enjoying the company of his father, Tomas. Every man wants his son to...
What is it that we fear? What is it that you fear? What is fear itself? I don't know if I can answer that one. I don't know if I can answer what fear actually is. Though I wager I could probably meaningfully
No,
discuss
Hannah,
it.
have faith it will.
Hello everyone. Shut up, parrot. This is a brief, just chatting stream. We talk about fear. First off, though, we don't have to do that now. How is everyone doing? I think seems to be the general mood of things. It seems as though some people are doing well and some people are not doing very well. For those of you that are not doing very well, please do better. Isn't it so strange the way the English language works, where if you are not doing well, it's kind of like it's not your fault? Hello. It's not your fault if you are not doing well, but someone could ask you to do better. But if someone asks you to do better, then it's like it is your fault, even though that is not what I intended to say. That it was your fault that you're not doing very well. But I merely had attempted to express my hope that you would be able to not to do well, to do more, better well. I don't know. You should do better. If you're not doing well, do better. What a great pull yourself up by the bootstraps, as they say. Totally unflawed
Parrot
logic.
Doesn't pronounce his master's name right.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't pronounce most words right at all. It's a wonder how he even got this job and how he's been permitted to keep it. I really don't know. But hello, everyone. On time or not, we support you, Charis. No need to fear when you have us here. Thank you, Exeon. That is very reassuring to know that there is no need to fear, for there will be support. I fear Charis starting stream on time. Yep. I fear he's not starting on time. Yep. Okay, so that's one of the things I don't fear, is I don't fear not starting on time, because there's no such thing. I think when I start the stream is when it starts. How can I start on time or otherwise? Because if I start stream, that's when I start stream. Oh, but you were supposed to start stream 10 minutes ago. You scheduled it for 10 minutes ago.
Personally, okay. I think one of the biggest fears is fear of the unknown.
Agreed. But also, we'll get to that. I think fear of the unknown is really interesting. Okay, but I didn't start stream 10 minutes ago. I started stream now. I started stream whenever I decided to. You set the times the stream starts? I do. So I do set when they start. They start when I start them. That's when they're set. Now you may go, oh, well, no, but you have a schedule. You put up a schedule. Yes, that's for reference. That schedule is for reference. That schedule is for you to know, okay, this is roughly when this will happen. Okay. But it happens when it happens, so to speak. The clock holds no power. You attribute too much power to the clock. Because just because the clock strikes 12 or, whenever it does, that's not when there's a new day. There's a new day when the Earth does like a rotation. That's when it's a new day. Or, in my personal preference, it's a new day when you go to sleep and wake up. Then it's a new day. Like, why should the clock dictate everything? It can be helpful, the clock can be helpful, okay? It can be helpful to have a reference, a schedule, a timetable, whatever, right? That will put you and someone else in sync when you're trying to meet up to do something. It can be helpful. And so if you're saying, well, Charis Euphranor, you should attend your, you should do your streams to the time they are scheduled. Well, I try, first of all. Second of all, yes, like it would be ideal. It would really be ideal if I could just start every stream on time, but sometimes I can't. And there's a certain like list of things that I would prioritize and deprioritize in certain orders in order to accommodate for me having to stream, which I'm making sound like a chore when it's like I wanted to do this in the first place. I'm digging myself into a corner here. I fear that I will never live my life to its fullest, ever be happy or content, only living to people's expectations while I think I was living how I want to live / never truly living. That's a lot to unpack, Fufu. That's a good comment, but it's a lot to unpack. Lurking, have a nice stream. All right, well, okay, Fufu, that's a really interesting comment. I'll get to it. But first off, hold on. What do I want to say first? Just to get it out of the way. No, I don't have anything to say in particular to get out of the way, other than, this is spooky month. Hello, welcome to spooky month. This month, I will be playing spooky games and reading spooky works. I will also be maybe discussing spooky topics, maybe, I don't know. And you might just see me getting a heart attack and dying. You might just witness that. I don't know. Probably not. Hopefully not. But you might. Depending on the game I play and when I play it. But that is what you have to look forward to this month. And we're kicking that off with this discussion stream. It's just chatting stream where we talk about things we fear, or at least we try to kind of come to grips with fear. I mentioned at the intro, right at the beginning, that I am not confident in my ability to give you a really good definition of what fear is, but nonetheless, I feel as though we could probably have a meaningful discussion without such a definition. For what is fear? Things may cause fear, but fear itself is a subjective sort of internal state of mind, state of being, that one is occasionally subject to when they encounter things that are, for lack of a better term for now, scary. Frightful, just
there is nothing
synonyms.
To fear but fear itself or whatever.
But is there nothing to fear but fear itself? I think there are many things to fear. Fear itself is perhaps one of the few things we shouldn't fear. And everything else we should. I'm flipping that around.
Hello.
Hello, FCF. Fear for me is happening right now, and it's a stream buffering every 10 seconds. My condolences. You can always come back to the VOD. Let me just read through some of the comments first, to make sure I didn't miss anything important. Not that there would be there's much importance there. Hello. Slightly sick.
The day you catch me watching the VOD for a just chatting stream is one where I am either busy or dead.
Why? This is a just chatting stream with a theme. It's filled with interesting, delightful conversation. It's like a one-way podcast. Okay. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to start with what Ari said earlier. Personally, I think one of the biggest fears is fear of the unknown. We fear that which we do not know. Is that true? Well, yes, I think, because what is fear if not the sort of anxiety that accompanies you in the face of uncertainty? You don't know if the murderer is gonna come and stab you, or you don't know if Five Nights at Freddy Fazbear is gonna jump out of the... These are like not great examples, but like you catch my drift, right? You sort of, the fear is the uncertainty. It's the sort of, oh, I don't know what's happening. The moment it happens, the jump scare, the whoa, it kind of like, the moment that hits you, well, okay, that's it. That's the scare. You go, whoa, you scream, you sort of, there's a catharsis in that maybe. And then that's it. And then you don't really feel fear anymore after the scare. Maybe you do though. Maybe it's like, I'm trying to think, like, what if you were walking in a horror, in like a, what are those called? A horror house? Haunted house. A haunted house. One of those amusement park attractions. And you were to be jump scared, throughout the whole venture. You walk in, and every turn, every corner, there's a doll, or there's like a Frankenstein's monster, there's like a, there's a zombie, there are actors, there are like
Ariel,
tons of
it
things.
Depends.
There are tons of different things within the house that would scare you, and they all kind of do jump at you, and you go, oh god, I'm in fearful, but you kind of, you don't just stop feeling fear after the first jump scare. You keep going. So I guess maybe there's the lingering sense of, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to I don't know what's next. I don't know what would happen until I get through the whole haunted house. And maybe when you do get through it is when you stop feeling the fear. It's because, okay, you've done it now. You know that that's behind you. And I suppose that any lingering feelings of fear are because maybe subconsciously you're thinking, I don't know when I'll get jump scared again, because I know the haunted house is behind me, but maybe something else might come about. Who knows? Understanding something about makes it a lot less scary, even if it is dangerous to you. I find that to be resonant. I wouldn't dare say truthful, as we know. By the way, I'm the first and last philosopher VTuber, the last librarian of Alexandria. Charis Euphranor. I think I'm supposed to say Charis Euphranor first, but whatever. I wouldn't dare say truthful. But knowing something, and knowing what it is, knowing the details of it, does make it less scary. So maybe there is some credence to the fear of the unknown. Could we think of examples for why that wouldn't be the case? Like, well, let's try to maybe test our mettle by thinking in the other direction. What's an example of something that is just as scary even after you know it? Or you know how it works?
At Ariel, but why is my mom holding a knife?
That is in response to, as an example, if you see a woman you don't know with a knife approaching you, that might be scary. If you know that it's your mom telling you dinner's ready, it's a lot less scary. Indeed, because with that person you do know, there's a sense of familiarity once again. There's a sense of, oh, I know that my mother probably wouldn't stab me, or wouldn't be inclined to harm me in any way. Whereas it's unclear what the intentions of a stranger may be, especially when holding a knife, maybe. So perhaps there is some credence to the dimension of the unknown. But really, now here's maybe what I would say to that. How helpful is it to say that what we fear is the unknown? Or maybe one of the biggest things we fear is the unknown, the uncertainty. How helpful is it? Now that's a different question. How does knowing that we fear not knowing help us cope with fear. Because certainly there are no guarantees in life. There's a even though, yeah, so Ari, you're saying, even though there's a non-zero chance that your mother had a psychotic break and may want to stab you, so there's a non-zero chance of many things happening, many possibilities happening, that could create the same sort of anxiety that we would feel when we feel fear. And you can take this to an extreme, of course, a skeptical extreme where nothing is real, you're in a dream, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. You know how this works. You've been to my channel, probably. You've heard me yammer on about things for about more than 10 minutes and have thusly probably been exposed to the same, like, bastardizations of the Cartesian skepticism argument being used for to perpetuate my own agenda rather than as an earnest sort of analysis of the thought experiment. Anyways. You can never really truly know anything if you want to build into that logical extreme, right? And if you don't, if you want to go, well, there are some things that we can know, and this is epistemology, right? And this is how we know them. Maybe it's through empirical data gathering, maybe it's through axioms and whatever. Then your place of comfort is like what, mathematics and logic puzzles and nothing else. Because you really could walk out the door and get struck by lightning, cursed by Zeus, and then just die. That would be bad. It's very unlikely, but you're probably not scared of that. You're probably scared of things that are not just possible, but somewhat probable, right? Or maybe, maybe have we veered too far from the whole fears of the unknown? So, if we fear things that we don't know, because we can't know for certain most things or many things, or at least the degrees of certainty are not quite the same among different things and fluctuate and change all the time, then our fear thusly may be, fluctuating and changing according to our circumstances and contexts. Zeus would rather have a demigod child with me than strike me dead in all likelihood, let's be perfectly honest. I have nothing to say, but it's good that you think highly of yourself. Anyways, if a stranger is crying outside of my window at 2 a.m., I'd be scared. If my childhood friend was crying outside my window at 2 a.m., I still think I'd be scared, though. I think anyone being outside my window would be scared because my window is like above standard elevation. Or rather, it's elevated above ground level, so anything outside my window would be terrifying automatically. Especially if it's a bird. Ugh. There's something else someone said that I thought would be interesting too. Where was it? Sorry, there's a lot of comments today because everyone's really excited to talk about what they fear. Fufu earlier said, I fear that, and I read this once, I'll read it again. I fear that I will never live my life to its fullest, / ever be happy or content, only living to people's expectations while I think I was living how I want to live, / never truly living. Will never live my life to its fullest, ever be happy or content, only living to people's expectations while I think I was living how I want to live, / never truly living. So that, I think, can perhaps possibly be summarized as a fear of not fulfilling a fear of regret, perhaps, right? Maybe that's something we fear as well. Regret. You know, really, I should be typing these up. Like, hold on. Text. Add a text. Regrets. It's horrible. Perfect. A fear of regret. That I would never live my life to the fullest. That I won't be happy or content. That I would live to other people's expectations, thinking I was living to my own. What is that? Because I don't think I fear regret. That's something maybe I'll have to personally reconcile with. I can, it's a common thing. Like I think many people do feel a fear of regret, that they fear, oh no, what if I didn't do this the way I wanted it to, or what if I missed out on an opportunity or whatever. I suppose in some ways I do. You ever get FOMO? No, I don't think I fear missing out per se. What I do fear is something that might be a bit similar. I fear one of the things I fear, I think, is not doing things to the best of my ability. Because if I do something, it's a sort of like maybe it's an offshoot of what we may call perfectionism, where this thing has to be perfect or else I'm not doing it, or like when I do it, I will not finish until it's perfect. For me, it's close. It used to maybe be perfectionism until I quickly realized that I'm just terrible at doing things. I'm not very good at all, and so I maybe quickly adjusted my perfectionist instinct, my perfectionism, to a drive to do the best I can. And as long as it's the best I could do, if it's bad, then I know that that's something I can learn from my mistakes. But if it wasn't the best, then it wasn't the best that I could have done. Then I feel as though it was a missed opportunity for me to grow and develop as a person. Like if I half-ass something and all the comments I get for it are like, well, this was not good, but for the reasons I knew and I could have improved on, I was just, for some reason lazy or whatever, then that to me feels like wasted time, or maybe like that feels like I'm not growing as much as I should. And that is something I fear. Do I fear it? Yeah, I do fear it. And it is fear. It's an unsettling anxiety. It's this strange sort of like a rock in the pit of my stomach, and I go, oh well, it's not right. No, I can't. Like, I wish it were better. One second. Hello, I also have a fear of being kidnapped. No, I don't think I do. Where were we? Where were we? Sorry, that was a. Hold on. Where were we? A fear of regrets. Yes, regrets. I fear not doing something to the best of my ability, which is why I stream, because I know that when you stream, because I knew that when I started streaming, I knew that inevitably I would do things not to the best of my ability, or rather, I would do things that were to the best of my ability, but limited very much by fatigue or by like certain other factors that are harder to control, and that invigorated my sort of my approach to this fear. I was less anxious about it, even though I was still anxious. Like the anxiety was less overwhelming, because in my head I was now subjecting myself to the scariness of improv, of uncertainty, of things happening, and having to adapt along the way, which was something I was very adverse to for much of my life. I did not want that. I wanted things to be predictable and easy to manage, and throwing myself in a situation, or in situations where that cannot possibly be the case, is one of the ways I've tried to conquer fear. We can get to that later, but I do want to spend a little bit talking about coping with fear as well, as just what we fear in general, but we can move on to another fear. What else do we have? Executive dysfunction has truly made it so that I have come face to face with the consequences of my own actions and becoming unafraid of something very scary that I myself caused. Yes, it happens, and it might suck, but we can overcome these things, these fears. I think largely fears can in some ways be dealt with, and one could cope, though not completely remove those sources of fear. Nonetheless, we're able to embrace them as a part of ourselves, maybe. I don't know. But I regret that, a fear of not living life to the fullest. You are. I think one of the ways I dealt with this, because I didn't really feel this. I don't think I've ever felt like I didn't live up to my full potential.
The fact
whatever.
that you have that fear in the first place shows that you care about your impact on the world, which I think is praiseworthy in its own right.
Thank you, Exeon. That's a really nice comment to say. That's a really nice comment to make. I do think that it's empowering. I do think it's great, but I also think it's one that's not, that I shouldn't be solely privy to. I think people should feel that, and we should give people that fear, but not in that way, if that makes sense. We should make people fear that they're not doing enough, only if that fear just pushes them to do more, but not at the same time push them to a level of anxiety where they think they're never doing enough. I don't know. Because it's not about being perfect, it's about doing your best, right? And your best can vary. What I will say to the, what if I'm not living up to my full potential, is like, yeah, you probably aren't. Yeah. You probably could be a better person than you are right now. You maybe could be you could be at a better job. You could be spending more time doing this instead of doing something, like reading a book instead of scrolling TikTok or whatever that you do on the Charis Euphranor Discord server. You could also be honing your abilities and talents in specific ways.
To answer the title, I don't really have fears, just anxiety. Also, hi everyone.
Hello, maybe. Well, but let's assume that your anxieties are incorporated into our discussion of fear today, because I can't be bothered to give a good definition of fear. And I'm just gonna assume all unpleasant feelings of uncertainty are maybe a good definition of fear. I don't know. Or are prerequisites to what fear actually is, even though we don't really know what it is yet, or at least I haven't dug deep enough into it to give you a good answer. Fear is when things get scary. Dude, my anxiety gets off the charts sometimes. Could have done more in uni and be qualified enough to get a job. Yeah, you could have. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. Let's not delude ourselves. Like, you probably, not you specifically, but people, like, in general, you've probably done things that if you had the power of hindsight, if you just knew beforehand that it would be this bad, and if you could sort of magically adjust and change your brainwaves and the state of your being at that moment in time, you could have done better. And that hypothetical, like, branch in time in this new timeline, yes, maybe things would be better for you. Yeah, maybe. Probably, in fact. It's very likely that if you had more hindsight and you had more wisdom, the wisdom that you possess right now, back then, you'd be making better choices. Of course. Yes. But you didn't, and now you do. That's the key. If I had the power of hindsight, I would start over at like age of 8 and redo every single one of my decisions. I'm so serious. Okay, but that's not a hot take though. Like Charis literally every person would do that.
Possible world theory.
Maybe we'll get to that. Maybe we'll get to the best possible world theory. But like also like everyone would do that though. Like you're not. It's not an. I'm sorry. I'm gonna lampoon you because you're a mod. I'm gonna because you're a mod, Hannah. But like that's literally everyone would do that. That is you're not brave for saying if I had the power of hindsight, I would go back and change things. Yeah, probably yes. It's very most people would, because most people think that most people agree to the notion that there is a sort of better outcome that could have happened. There is a better position one would be in. One could be happier in certain ways if they knew this, or one would be more successful in certain things and be able to achieve their goals if they had the power of hindsight and whatever. But like you don't. But you don't have the power of hindsight until after the fact. No, but I would redo every single moment of the past 17 years. Most people were like, yeah, I would just change one or two things. I would fundamentally change the way I thought about things. Okay. But what does that really mean? Not in the sense that like, what are you saying? But what does that say about your character right now? That means that you have undergone such a radical departure from who you used to be into a hopefully improved version of yourself that you are happy with, or at least more happy with than you were years ago while you were wandering and unsure. And it was only through that wandering and uncertainty that led to this very point now where you go, wow, that's cringe. I was cringe. It's the whole, it's the whole idea of like, you can't, you're cringing now at your past means that you've grown and developed that much as a person. It's that tired thought. Probably means I'm deeply unhappy, but we're not going to talk about that. No, it means that you have undergone an extremely notable shift in perspective, which is an admirable and respectable thing. That's what that means. And what that means is for the next, I don't know, 60 years of your life or whatever, you'll be able to make better decisions than ever before. And I think that's pretty cool. Like you did not peak, in other words. One of those, and this is maybe the opposite of what we've mentioned in the whole regrets thing, right? Is a different fear, really. It's a fear. Stagnation. Let's put that up there. Is it a perspective shift or a development of my prefrontal cortex, though? It comes with the thing. You have Uno. It comes with your Xbox. You have Udo. You have perspective shifts when your prefrontal cortex forms and you gain life experience and you fuck up and you go, oh my god, I fucked up, and then you make people unhappy and your relationships sour and you fuck up your opportunities for something like that, and then you gain from it. It comes with the package. It's you have Uno. My biggest fear is Charis not putting my new art on the wall. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll do it. I'm sorry. I'll do it after stream. I'll do it after stream. I promise. I promise. I've seen it. I like it. I've seen it. I like it. I've seen it. I like it. You know what? As compensation, I'll put it up right now. As compensation, I'll put it up right now at like the side of the wall. Hold on. How do I like save image? Charis wall face. Okay. KFZF is gonna be over there. Okay, well it's gonna be behind the candle, but it's gonna be like, it'll be like, okay, it'll be like here. It'll be like here. It'll be like here. It'll be here. I would have put it here. Thank you, FZF. I'm gonna hang up fan art. I do that. I acknowledge my fan art.
Fucking put it with duct tape on the wall.
Have you just covered your face with it? No, it's my face. Hold on, I gotta like. Is the rest of the stream just updating the wheel? No, it's not. I'll do that after stream. I'll do that. I keep forgetting. Okay, it goes there. All right, we're done. Okay, let me get to the fears. Let me talk about certain fears that are coming to my mind as we speak of them. Okay. Fear of stagnation. That's something else. Anecdotally, a friend of a friend. So okay, a friend I had was recounting a time when he sort of went to a reunion. It wasn't quite a formal reunion, but it was a hangout with, like, you know, people from school that he hadn't talked to in like many years. And this was this was a friend of a friend. This was someone I knew, but not personally very well. But I'd had like conversations with this person, but like we weren't really close. Anyways, my friend mentions how he'd been confided in by this mutual we had, who had I guess, you know, here, a fear of stagnation, right? But what he said was, in his words, was that he, like, oh, I think I peaked in high school. That sucks. When the concept entered my mind, I didn't realize how scary that was, and I couldn't even imagine it, because, oh my god, can you imagine not improving since high school? Like, high school me was terrible. High school me was like, not like a horrible person. I don't think I was ever a horrible person. I was a worse person, but I wasn't that much worse. But more importantly, I was way cringier. My social skills were way worse than they are now. I could not take a hint at all. Not like a, you know, my friend says I still can't, but whatever, we'll put that aside. I I was even less eloquent and more of a stuttering mess than I am now. What else? I was way too I was ambitious, but I just didn't know enough to justify that ambition. And I just had a big ego. Well, I still do now, so that's like the same. That hasn't changed. Let's see, what else? I was less confident. That's for certain. And I knew a lot less. Yeah, I was less confident. I knew a lot less. That's like, those are the main things. Anyways, there's like so much that has happened since high school that I can't fathom, like, being frozen in time for that. I'm 60 years old, by the way, right? So I can't fathom being frozen in time for like 40 years, 45 years or something. That's insane. Someone had to say something in words. I could not read body language or facial expressions or tone of voice. I would... Hold on, is this the right time to say this? Let's just say that when I heard... let's just say that when I heard I love you, I did not take it. I was like, that's great. I'm sure I was loved as a friend and nothing, and that's all they meant, and that's it. That's cool. And then I didn't pay it any thought after that. Whatever. We're not talking about that today. That is irrelevant. Well, anyways, point is a fear. Sorry, let's get back to it. A fear of stagnation. A fear of stagnation. I fear standing still. Like, not in the sense that I fear stillness or, you know, a sort of calming inactivity for the sake of recuperation, but I fear stagnating and not sort of doing better. It's hard to put into words because you can take breaks. Like, you should be allowed to take breaks. You should be allowed to stop. You should be allowed to not have to grind 24/7. Like, you don't have to wake up every day at 4 a.m. to like take a cold shower and then head to the gym and then answer 2 emails and then eat. Oh, excuse me. I forgot to mute. And then like have lunch and then answer another email at your dad's company. And then gym, and then go back home, and then like take another cold shower, and then read the Bible or something. You know, like you don't have to do that to be productive. Like, you're allowed to rest. You're allowed to just not be maximally efficient in whatever way that may be. And frankly, it's all a load of bullshit. Anyways, but you should be constantly striving, right? So you shouldn't feel the pressure to have to move, to have to constantly be in motion, but you should be striving towards things, whatever that may be. And you shouldn't fear that you are striving towards the wrong things. That would be the fear of regret earlier, right? You shouldn't fear that you are striving towards the wrong things, because at the end of the day, that striving brings you to newer perspectives.
I usually remember it's not what I've done in the past, but what you are working on now.
I usually remember it's not what I've done in the past, is what you were. Yeah, that's what's important. Yes, that is what's important. Is you're shaped by your past to what I'm working on now. Yeah. You're shaped by your past to improve upon your present, right? Hello, Thunderbands. Hello. I was such a dick to my friends. Well, you should, like, apologize. Really. Just, like, you know, message them and go like, hey, sorry about that thing that happened years ago. I've grown and developed as a person now, and I feel like I owe you an apology. Or maybe even, what's even better is if you can say that in person, and you just message them and go like, hey, it's been a while, and there's some stuff, you know, that maybe we can talk about. Do you want to go grab a coffee or something? I think I've tried, but they didn't respond. Well, then you tried. Right? Reach out, be like, hey, just want to grab coffee, and maybe, like, don't be like, I'm sorry, and then, you know, bring up old wounds if it was really bad. because then you're just bringing up old wounds. But
Honestly,
do give yourself like the
LOL.
opportunity. Yeah, they don't owe it to you, but also if you want to set that up, you don't approach it as like a groveling on the floor, like, you know, knees down, I'm begging, I'm sorry, please forgive me. You know, like you don't have to do that, but you should probably attempt to make amends, not by trying to, you know, weave away the past, but more so to focus on the present and the future, right? I would love for things to be more stagnant. I've never stayed in the same place for a long time, so I grew to hate change. That is really interesting. We can get to that in a bit, maybe. That's really interesting. But yeah, this fear of stagnation, this whole like, I've been the same person since X like years ago, that's scary. Now that's scary. I fear that. I don't think I ever will feel that because I'm constantly pushing myself, and I am 60 years young, so there's a ways to go, but mayhaps one day I might feel, oh, I'm doing the same thing again. If I do, please know that I will, or at least right now, I feel as though I'm confident enough to assert that future me would be able to take a step back and reevaluate everything and go, hang on, what the hell are we doing? We need to reset. This is not it. We got to try again, right? That's probably what future me would do. I hope if he felt any sort of stagnation. Right now I don't. Right now things are going too quickly. And if anything is not going quickly enough, it's because it's not on me and it's entirely not my fault. I'm doing the best I can. Every day, I am putting maximum effort into stuff. My goals and dreams are being striven towards. Is that a word? I'm striving towards my goals and aspirations. Not just, you know, make X amount of money every year like a filthy consumerist, but meaningful things like approaching genuine change for specific parts of your community or your surroundings and your familiarities, right? Something to that effect. I wish I could apologize to some people, but they've literally cut me out of their lives. And that will happen. Like, that does happen. And they don't owe it to you to, like, open you back up in their life. Like, just because you messed up, you're not entitled to, like, the opportunity to apologize. Which is why messing up is scary. And I guess that goes back to the fear of regret, right? One of the only things I would ever regret it's not really a fear because I don't think that's ever happened to me truthfully, is fucking up a relationship I have with someone so badly that I could never talk to them again. Like that is a fear of mine that is not quite a fear because it's never happened. And I just don't think it ever will. Like, I really don't think it would. I can't see how I would be able to incur the wrath or the contempt of someone so strongly that they would just cut me out of their life entirely. But maybe I'm giving myself too much credit. Who knows? It has yet to happen. It might happen in the future. I worry about it in the vague sense that it would really suck if it happened, but it also feels rather unlikely at the moment. Why is that? It's because I've been fortunate enough to be rewarded for being honest and forthcoming as a person, which has instilled in me values that have allowed me to carry on being the way that I am, genuine and authentic and truthful, but also sincere and not just a doormat, but also as like a human being that cares about the things around him. And I've been fortunate enough to have grown up in an environment that helped me be that, because I could have easily grown up in an environment that was much more hostile to the idea of someone being a genuine, authentic person. Like that could happen. That shit happens to people. That shit does happen to people, and it's not their fault, or at least not entirely. So I guess that's what gives me my patience. Anyways. I love that it looks like Parrot is nodding whenever you move. He's nodding in agreement because he just knows I'm right all the time. Anyways, a fear of stagnation. That's scary. I don't think I will stagnate. If I do, and not in the sense that like, oh, my subscriber count is the same, because that's stagnation too. My viewership is the same. You know what? Now that we're on this, yeah, I have not, like, I've been staring at my like at my YouTube analytics, and they've been telling me it's going down. Charis Euphranor, you're stagnating. You're starting to become irrelevant again. You know, you've grown like 9% less than you did like last month, and it's just like, fuck off, man. I'm playing 80s. I don't care. I'm playing my video game. This does not concern me. Like my viewership does not concern me. I'd be really concerned if not if my like, you know, subscriber count goes down or whatever, or if like I get less views on something. I'd be really concerned if someone who watched me for a long time kind of genuinely went, hey, sorry, but I don't care for what you do anymore because I find it uninteresting. That would really suck. I would have a fear. I have a fear of that, maybe. That would be, but that's not stagnation, maybe. That's like a fear of failure. So what is it a fear of? I don't know what it is exactly, but I don't think it's stagnation. Anyways, I would, my maybe not advice, but my take on stagnation is like, be aware of what that actually means, and don't get wrapped up in the whole career progress or data-driven interpretations of progress, because that can be shallow and frankly not in your best interests. But you should fear stagnation in the sense of like you developing as a person, not how much, and that shouldn't merely be based on how much money you make. I think it's shallow. Anyways. A fear of change. A fear of change. Maybe you mentioned this, and I thought it was really interesting. That you would love for things to be stagnant because you've never stayed in the same place for a long time, so grew to hate change. I think change is something to be embraced, not in the sense that any sort of change is justifiable. This is, you might find this as a talking point. It's still sort of emerging, but some people might say any change is good, and they'll cite common wisdom for how change should be embraced, and, you know, get with the times or whatever. I would be very careful with that, because change is to be embraced, not in the sense that it's always good. Sometimes change is bad. Sometimes things change for the worse. And when it does change for the worse, you nonetheless embrace it. And what the word embrace means is not like just be content with it and then be uncritical. Embracing change to me is more so accept the fact that things have changed. Accept the fact that things are different now. Accept the fact that it's no longer what it once was. Don't shy away from it. Don't run away from it. Don't think, oh, okay, like it's, but what if I just did this? What if I just did what I used to do? Can it just go back then to what it was? No. Now is now. You exist now. And you should accept that things have changed. But you should not let that deter you from striving for good change in the face of this change for the future, I guess. So when I put my fist up in the sky and I shake it like the old man I am, and I go, oh, darn technology and chat GPT and AI, you know, like I'm not a Luddite in the sense that I think just progress is bad and we should just stick to the good old days of the era for which I had the most personal life satisfaction in, and think the world should be held to those very specific conditions because they were the best for me, or at least I thought they were the best for me. Like that's not at all what I'm about. But when people do dumbass shit, and when the future unfolds in a trajectory that is shaped or influenced largely by people doing dumbass shit, then I'm not going to be in denial and say it's not happening. I'm going to acknowledge that it happens, or it's happening, and then strive to fucking course correct. Whatever that may be. And I could be very wrong in what I think is course correction. I could be very wrong in thinking, in positing good change versus, you know, the change that is happening at that point. But nonetheless, that does require me to participate in this current predicament that I now find myself in. So a fear of change is natural. Change brings about the uncertainties in life and many things. Makes sense that we would feel...
Was there ever a part in your life in which you were optimistic about technology?
About 10 years ago, yeah. About 10 years ago, I was optimistic about technology, and I was optimistic about AI. Now I'm not so much optimistic, but I'm not it's not all doom and gloom. It's just now, though, I have gained further information and knowledge, not just about technology, but about the way we humans behave due to certain socioeconomic circumstances, and how that shapes the way we develop and utilize technology. I can accept change, but having things always change has destroyed my brain. It feeds into my biggest fear, anxiety of not being able to miss people or grow attachments. Having things always change has destroyed my brain. It feeds into my biggest fear of not being able to miss people or grow attachments. Not being able to grow attachments. I think let me put that up. What should this be? Relationships? Bad relationships or a lack of relationships? A fear of interpersonal relationships. It's really long. Let me just... Okay. Put it there, maybe. Because you're not being able to miss people or grow attached to them. That's a really... Can you elaborate on that more? Maybe because that's interesting, and I'm not quite sure how to approach that at the moment. Because I do fear... I fear having attachments. Maybe. No, I don't. I don't actually. What do I fear? Not being able to miss people. Because I think... I fear not being missed. I fear not being missed. That's more my fear. I think I have no trouble missing people and growing attached to people in a way that's like amicable, positive relationships that develop between human beings. I think I've been able to do that and do that well. I fear that one of the things I fear is that I'm putting in more than the other person. Maybe that's one of my fears, or like significantly more than the other person. Is that true? When I go talk to people that are clearly like above my when I punch above my weight, right? Like, it's very clear that to me that my time is worth less than their time. And so I don't feel like for example, if I talk to a professor who I admire, or at least I think is, doing really good work and is also really busy all the time, I don't think, oh, like, I hope that they see me as an equal or whatever. Like, I know that I am infinitesimally small and I probably don't matter to them, but also I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being irrelevant in their eyes, because my maybe conversation reading with them is me sort of gaining something from that experience, a sort of wisdom, perhaps. I don't know. I fear that I'll be the backup friend or the plan B friend. I don't fear that, because I and my friends have been each other's backup plan Bs, in the sense that, like, if a plan is canceled but one was ready to go out anyways, we would hit each other up and go like, hey, I had plans but they've canceled and I've got nothing to do right now, are you free? And then, like, either of us, multiple people, but, like, either of us would go, oh yeah, sure, I'm free, and then, like, someone else would say they're free, and then we would just, like, hang out. That is not a fear I have, because I don't feel like, oh, I was a second option. It just feels like, oh, well, okay, we have time to hang out. And I think that has to be underscored by, I think that has to underpin being each other's plan A's for, like, other occasions. Because if we're each other's plan A's for many occasions, and then on certain occasions we're each other's plan B's, I think that works out. But if you're someone's, like, backup friend, that does kind of suck, I think. Maybe you're saying, I feel like I can't like things or people because I've never had something stay in my life, and now I physically can't miss things, like, out of sight, out of mind. I am more familiar with the opposite, which I think is more of like a fear of abandonment. That I know some of my friends have, where they fear, like, not being acknowledged anymore, or not being able to see a person again due to any circumstances, really. That might be out of everyone's control, but it's for the best anyways, and it's not a big deal. I'm more familiar with people being too attached and not being able to, deal with that. I'm less familiar with the problem of not being able to feel attachment, which is not to say at all that it's all I'm saying is I can't speak on it very well, so you should speak on it more, is what I'm trying to say. Because, like, I think there will and can eventually be certainty. Like, I would find it rather unlikely that you will have to deal with that forever, right? But maybe I'm just being privileged and optimistic, etc., etc. I'm unsure. I'm uncertain about that. I never have enough friends at any given time to have a backup in the first place. Well, you don't need that, like, many. They just need to not be busy. Conversely, you could have a ton of friends and they could all be busy, and then you would have no one else to hang out with anyways, because everyone else has a job that pays them, like, real money, and they can pay rent and everything. It'll be, yeah. One of my friends literally texted me for the first time in a month as we speak. Killing myself postponed. Let's go! Thanks for the words of encouragement. I'm sorry I can't do more for you than that, but I I'm not. I find it unlikely that it will continue for too long. Like, I think you will naturally come out of that rut and not suffer from that anymore. What that will lead to, I'm uncertain either. But you know, you can ask me then. What do I fear in terms of interpersonal relationships? I fear people like. I fear fucking up so much that someone just doesn't want to talk to me ever again, but as we've established, I find that unlikely. I fear people... you know what I fear? I fear people not reaching out to me because they misunderstand and think that I don't want to hang out. That's what I fear. When I don't reach out, it's because... Well, I never reach out, which is bad. You can't... Not everyone can occupy the never reaching out role. But in order to kind of compensate for that, I make sure that when someone reaches out to me, I double the effort of the invitation. And I go above and beyond to make sure that they know, oh, I really do want to hang out. And I do enjoy being here. It's just, I was so swamped that I just couldn't, you know, in my head plan any of this. Conversely, recently I've been a bit more inclined to be the person initiating hangouts and, like, you know, just chats in general in my life, because that is something I mused upon earlier in the year as a trait of mine that I think could be expanded. Like, I don't think it's wrong inherently, but I do think once in a while me doing the reaching out would do me good, because then I'd be more accustomed to the process. I fear that people will hate me and think I'm boring, but they will, though. Not because you are, but because statistically some amount of people will probably not like you and think you're boring. The same, I think, goes for everyone. So I think what maybe more specifically perhaps you fear, I'm guessing, tell me if I'm right or wrong, that you fear people will hate you and people who you like, who you think are cool, will hate you and think you're boring. Because if someone hates you and thinks you're boring and they're like a piece of shit, like, you don't care. You're like, well, duh, of course you hate me. You're like an asshole and a bigot. Like, that doesn't surprise me. But if someone you admired maybe or wanted or thought was cool didn't like you, then it would be more crushing. But then that's less likely, I think. Though a very valid fear nonetheless. I both fear everything and nothing. Well, do you mean in the sense that, like, you fear things, but your fear is under control? In which case, that's good. Don't know if this helps, but all you chair people seem like cool people. It makes me sad to see you all anxious and doubtful. Thank you, Tia. Those are very nice, kind words that they mayhaps deserve. Maybe not. I do think it's hard to overcome so many of these things because they're inhibitions that have kept us safe, right? That's something I wanted to move on to. I don't know if I want to move on to now, but it's the whole idea that, like, excuse me, like, why do we fear, right? The whole idea of fears, the purpose of fear being to protect us from things. No, it's more like when you fuck everything, you fuck nothing. No, I don't get that. I'm sorry. I don't. That doesn't make sense to me. You either fear, you fear or you don't fear. That to me feels kind of unreconcilable. Charis, you are spitting facts. By the way, the way people treat you reflects on them, not you. It reflects on both. It's both. I think it's both. I think it's like yeah, the way you are treated or the things people say to you reflect both you and them. But, you know, if you talk to someone and they're an asshole to you because of something that's out of your control, it reflects on both in the sense that it reflects on you in that you possess a trait that is out of your control, but it reflects on them that they would pick that apart and, you know, for some reason aggro against it. So what it tells you is not very useful because this shit is just out of your control. This is just who you are. But what it says about them is something that can inform your decision to avoid the hell out of them, right? Likewise, I love knowing what people think of me, especially the negative stuff, because even if they're wrong, for example, when I go into like a, even if they're wrong, you learn something. Is it like about both yourself and to someone else? For example, when you put on the hazmat suit, and you go into the comment section of the male loneliness epidemic stream I did months ago. It's calmed down now, but oh boy, was that not a place to be in.
Oh, I hate hearing what my parents think of me, especially when it comes to my negatives, which they are often wrong about.
I used to be that way as well, where I hated them when my parents criticized me and picked me apart for things that weren't even true. But then later I just realized, oh, but they're wrong. But like that's actually not the case. And so it went from like, because I think maybe what I suffered from previously was not being able to overcome the idea that, oh, but they're my parents, right? This was a long time ago, by the way, because I'm 60 years old now, right? But it's sort of the idea that, oh, my parents are my parents. They, you know, I grew up with them and they have known me their whole lives. How could they, like, if they say these things to me, like subconsciously you're thinking, well, there must be a reason they're saying these things to me or about me. And some of it might be true. No, they could just be wrong. They could just be really wrong. They could be well-meaning and wrong. It happens. Like your parents in general, and it happens too frequently, can be both well-intentioned and totally off the mark. And what's important is to recognize both the fact that they are well-intentioned, hopefully, and the fact that they're wrong. And taking steps to address that in that, like, listen, mother, father, you are completely incorrect in this assessment of the situation. Here's why. I suspect you think this, or this might be a better description for how you feel. Or maybe I suspect that you think these things about me or because you fear that I may be certain aspects that you might not like very much. And then, okay, but at the end of the day, if you mean well, there is some reconciliation we can do where we can work towards what would actually be beneficial for me, etc., etc. I like knowing what people think of me so I can make plans to work on those aspects of myself and then inevitably not. Too true. Me when I say I'm gonna do... Me when I look at the calendar and it's April and I say, yep, I'm gonna do a Sisyphus stream, and then after I played the game of Sisyphus, I said, alright, shortly after I'm gonna do the reading. Now the calendar is inverted, it's October now, and I still haven't been able to do the Sisyphus reading. I do not care about my parents' opinions and never have. It's just annoying to hear. But part of what makes it annoying is because you do kind of care, right? Because if you actually did not care, why would you be annoyed by it? Like if you actually didn't care. In the sense that, like, you know, A fly is only annoying in my room because I care about the buzzing it, like, that it does. It disrupts my space. Because it's a waste of time. Why is it a waste of time? Is it a waste of time because you're listening to it? Right? Like, if it truly slid off of you, if it truly slid off of you in a way that's just like, you know, in one ear and out the other, then you wouldn't actually, you wouldn't be annoyed. But the fact that you are annoyed means you care about it somewhat. And that's fine. That's not, like, wrong. I'm not saying, like, haha, rookie mistake, you cared about your parents' opinion of you. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But what is important is to understand that and see where you can reconcile. And how you can reconcile that with the fact that they're wrong. With the fact that they don't understand. Are you going to explain to them in a way that helps them understand? Do you have faith that they will be able to? That's another big step, right? Do you think they truly want what's best for you? If so, how can you help them help you? They wouldn't understand. Well, that's for you to decide. Maybe that's true. I don't know you nor your parents, but that's for you to decide. Tea question, what do you find the most beautiful about yourself? The tea flavor is apple, by the way. Apple tea sounds really good. What do I find most beautiful about myself? I'm enjoying these tea questions, FCF, by the way. Thank you very much. The most beautiful thing about myself, because there's lots to choose from. There's lots to choose from. The most beautiful, like, is that okay? Because there's multiple ways to think of this, right? To think this, right? Is this the best trait relative to all my other traits? In that I think this is my strongest aspect, or is it like, well, you asked most beautiful, so it's not maybe my strongest aspect, it's my most beautiful aspect. Okay, hold on. What is beauty then? What is beauty? Perhaps it's my patience. No, I don't know. I don't know if that's my most, because I am patient, and it's a strength of mine. But is it the most beautiful? But is it? Oh, okay. What do I find most beautiful about myself, though, is the other thing. Not what other people find to be the most beautiful aspect of myself. It's what I find to be the most beautiful aspect of myself. What would that be? That would be, I'm curious to know what you think about yourself as well, FCF. So I can spring the question back onto you as I stall for time. And for anyone else here who is willing to share that information, what do you think is the most beautiful, about yourself? I'll give it some thought. Probably, it used to be my intelligence. That's what it used to be. A long time ago, I was very much more prideful than I am now. I know you can't believe it, but actually, arguably, I was less prideful and more insecure, which is why it used to be my intelligence. I used to think that my intelligence was what, like, made me. Because I think deep down I was insecure that I wasn't enough.
Is my passport.
Thank you, Kobe. Thank you. What is the most beautiful thing about me? That I find beautiful too. That's me, right? Like, what do I value in other people that I also value in myself? Because most of what I aspire to be, most of the aspects of who I am as a person that I aspire to be, are what I want to also look for in other people. Probably my hope. My hope is probably the most beautiful thing that I find about myself. That's beautiful. Yes, that's beautiful because it's sort of, because it persists, because it's like, it's the image of like the battlefield. The war-torn battlefield with the mist and the dust and the chaos and everything, and amidst all of that is like a single flower blooming. It's like, it's that. That's what I see in myself. I think I like my hair the most. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough, I guess. Fair enough. Most people think about me as my scar. I think that's you must have that must be a pretty cool scar then. It must. It's super cool. I'm sure it is. Honestly, either my intelligence or compassion, neither of which I use enough, and I thus could almost seem like I don't have any of. But it's there nonetheless, probably, right? And informs you, if you don't use it, if it's there and you actually never use it, then there's other things you can worry about, but it nonetheless is still there. I would say hope is a good answer. I would say hope is a good answer to that. Thank you for the question. Okay, what the hell else are we talking about? Interpersonal. What else do we fear? What else do I fear? Okay, this is a side tangent. My immune system. Is that in response to like what you think is most beautiful about yourself? In which case, I can't imagine what you've gone through then if that would be your response, but well done. What am I scared of? I'm scared of many things. You know what I'm scared of? I'm scared of an imperfect... No, I'm scared of disappointment. That's what I'm scared of. That's another thing I'm scared of. Physical attribute, probably my laugh. I don't know what my physical attributes would be. Because, like, what I find most beautiful about myself physically is probably... It probably has to be my voice, because it's the only thing I've ever really worked on that I cared about. Until somewhat recently, so I guess it's that. But now it's like, now I'm starting to realize it's not even, like, I have a ways to go. Anyways. T question aside, thank you for that. A fear of disappointment is what I wanted to put next. Impossible to be scared of disappointment because I am the disappointment. And you're not scared of yourself? You don't look at the mirror every day and jump scare yourself? I find that deeply unrelatable. Anyways. Disappointment is a fear. Because... And I think that sort of actually relates very closely to the thing I said earlier with not... with hope as my most beautiful trait. Because you can only be disappointed if you had expectations, and those expectations come from loosely some sort of feeling of hope, right? This can take many forms. The first one I'm going to get out of the way really quickly because it's in my mind and I need to just talk about it because it's just happened and I've had the time to process it. But it is a fear really because I don't know what to do with this now. And I'm like worried and I'm just uncertain and I'm deeply unsatisfied with the way Hades 2 ended. Because I played Hades 2. And in case you didn't know, and I'm sure you did, for the entirety of... Hold on. Can I pull up my my channel history? Yep, I played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 streams of Hades 2 ranging from 5 to 7 hours long. Yep. And I did all of that, and it was so enjoyable, and then the ending kind of sucks. It just kind of sucks. You beat it? I did. I beat it, and I witnessed the finale yesterday. The credits rolled, and today I kind of did it off camera because I thought I don't think anyone on this earth wants to watch more Hades 2 from me. So I thought I'm just gonna do like the epilogue in my own time, and I'm like probably most of the way through the epilogue things. Like I know I haven't done them all, but I know what will be done. And man, does the story really not end very well, which is so disappointing because your first like 50 hours in the game are amazing and beautiful and fantastic, and it's just the last hour of the story that isn't very good. And then after you ignore it, like you could just continue playing the game for the game and it's good again. But like, oh my god, am I disappointed in the story? And you can only be disappointed if you had any hope in the first place. And that's probably fear. That's why it's my fear. That's why it's a fear of mine. Is because disappointment. My fear of disappointment is misplaced hopes. Excuse me. That's a bit of a tongue twister to say. I like to think that I know that I'm hopeful, but I'm not delusional. Right, like I have I have an optimistic sense.
Was this stream just an excuse to vent?
It really was, yeah. I like to think that I have that I place my hope into things that are worth hoping for, right? I like to think that when I have faith in something, it pays off. I like to think that when I make an assessment, it's probably, if it's not correct, at least kind of close to correct. And I really thought Hades 2's ending would be like the greatest thing from Supergiant Games ever, and I'm disappointed because I have to say it was rushed. Like the ending was rushed. I think I don't mind the way it ended, in the sense that I don't mind the end point of the narrative, but it really feels like they skipped over probably 2 more hours of development and just ended things very quickly. That is weird to me. They needed they needed to flesh out the story much more than they actually did for it to have been like a proper, satisfying narrative conclusion. And for that, I'm disappointed now. And for that, I fear for the future of maybe not Hades, but for Supergiant Games, for my enjoyment of Supergiant games, and just games in general. Because now I've been let down. I've been a little let down. I haven't been let down in a while, okay? I've not been let down. When was the last time I was let down by something? I'm looking at the recent games I've played, and none of them strike me as something disappointing. Flip side, okay, yeah, was that the last one? And maybe it was, yeah, maybe that was the last one. Since Flip side, I've not had nothing has ever disappointed me as much. But Flip side was awful. Flip side was so bad, it was awful. Hades 2 was disappointing in that it just did not live up to my really high expectations. Ending to Arcane Season 2 was kind of a disappointment. Maybe it was, yeah. Oftentimes, when I'm watching something or consuming something and I'm getting to the end, I'm not worried about what happens. I don't care what happens. In the case of Arcane, right? I was like, I don't actually care how or maybe what the plot progression was and what the state of the end of the narrative would be if the journey there was good and satisfying. I'm not watching on thinking, oh no, are they gonna kill this character off? Are they gonna kill this character off? But that's my favorite character. No. I'm watching on because of, and the suspense for me is, are they gonna stick the landing? Is this gonna be good? Like, is it like, I know it is good right now, I know it started good, but is it gonna like end good? And that's a unique sort of fear, because I don't feel this fear for something that's dog shit out the gate. Like, if it's bad, if it starts bad, that is just bad. If it just starts mediocre and uninteresting, then I don't have to like worry that it is gonna get better or worse. I'm just gonna be like, okay, it's mid, alright, whatever. Like, I wasn't like, color me surprised. The manga with the title Rent a Girlfriend is bad and continues to do 300 chapters of like, and continues on for 300 chapters, all for naught. Color me surprised. I don't care. That means nothing to me. Was the end of Hades 2 almost as bad as the ending to AOT? Okay, no. AOT, Actually, this is a really good question. Was it as bad as the ending for AOT? Attack on Titan was phenomenally incredible at the beginning and the middle, and then at the end it kind of fucks up. It doesn't fuck up. It's just like, it doesn't stick the landing, or it barely does. I think I would say it with, I feel like it kind of barely stuck the landing. Hades 2 did not stick the landing. It wobbled on and then kind of fell over. But like, everything prior to that was so good that I don't want to say it's bad. I really don't want to say it's bad. Straight men love slop. Breaking news. So like, when something starts off really good and progresses to be pretty good, and I can't immediately see the ending yet, and I have to wait for the ending, ooh, that fear of disappointment, that's big. That's a big fear. That's a big fear. Because it's the sanctity of the art. It's the sanctity of the thing that they're making. It's the like, can I just stare at this and go, yes, this is satisfying, it's complete, and it doesn't have to be perfect or flawless. It can have flaws, but was it at least satisfying overall? And the ending plays a big part of that, to me. Great idea. You should make slop to appeal to the hetero men. What would that even be? What would slop from me be? What would that be? Is it like, do I just stream Valorant for a month? do I just stream Valorant? Is that what you want from me? Do I just stream my mediocre Counter-Strike gameplay? What would be slop? What would be slop? Do I just react? Do I just react to things? Why blank is not a stoic shorts, but that's kind of good though. No? Yes, react tuber slop. Okay, maybe. I'm still like thinking about when and how to do the subversion. The whole like actually unironically just streaming slop or just being a sloppy streamer, in the sense that like doing the most generic uninteresting thing ever and just seeing how that works. Okay, so the trouble with reacting is like, some reactions are interesting. You can be an entertaining reactor. You can be an entertaining reactionary like VTuber or whatever. You could also just, you know, watch a Maxor video and nod and go and then like laugh, haha. That's kind of like the bare minimum to qualify for reaction content, I think. But anyways, off topic. What are we talking about? We're talking about fears. Are you scared of your body failing you like your reflexes dull or your memory gets foggy? I actually am. So I'm 60 years old, right? And one of the things I worry about or I'm scared of, is actually my body failing me in the sense that, like, you know, like my brain failing me, like getting a neurological disease. That's actually a really deep fear of mine. Let's move on from disappointment. Fear of degeneration, maybe? Because that's kind of what it is. Like, I fear physical degeneration a lot. Because I'm 60 years young. I'm in my prime. I'm the best. I'm at the peak of my shape, my form. And admittedly, it's a bit disappointing to know that this is it. It's only going to get worse from here. But yeah, like that really sucks. Yeah, Alzheimer's. What else? Dementia. Can you imagine, like, not being able to remember your friends and loved ones? That's deeply terrifying to me. That is deeply. Prions, neurodegenerative diseases. I actually don't have anything light to say about this, honestly. Like, it would be so heartbreaking for people to see just a shadow of me, where they look at me and they think that's me, but then all the presence, the presence of my mind is just gone. It's departed. I'm not there anymore. That is scary. That's terrifying. I have an irrational fear of getting a prion disease when I hike, even though they can't jump to humans. Can they not? Well, not yet. Not yet they can't, but... I'm very forgetful, so there's a lot of lives I've forgotten. Do you mean like lives as in live streams, or like lives as in like other people's lives, or parts of your life that you've forgotten? Because like I forget things, like all the time. Like, oh shit, I have to stream today. Oh, or like, oh wait, I'm supposed to schedule this thing, or like I haven't responded to this email. It's the same thing as my fear of death. I fear causing my loved ones harm and not knowing what they're going to think about it, or how they're doing. If I die, at least it's like I'm gone. But like if I get a degenerative disease, especially a neurodegenerative disease, like they seeing me slowly fade away is gonna be unbearable. And it's gonna suck for me too, because I'm slowly fading away and I'm losing it. I genuinely cannot fathom that at the moment, because I'm still young. I'm still 60 years young. Eventually, though, I'll have to deal with that. And that is so far away and unknown to me that I guess it qualifies as a significant fear I have. I need to do like as many New York Times puzzles as I can. I need to do my daily connections, Wordle, Pips, spelling bee. Used to be the daily, but now they paywalled it.
At Let Me Die, that's real though, cause prion diseases are terrifying.
Sudoku. I gotta do all of those puzzles every day so that my brain stays in tip-top shape and I do not get a disease that fucks up my cognitive capacity. I've forgotten so many friends and family members without a degenerative neurological disease. Forgotten in the sense that, like, they've just faded out of your mind, but if you see them again, you'll remember, right? Or do you mean forgotten as in, like, you've literally had... And if so, right? If you've forgotten them, is it because you just haven't had that many significant interactions with them? Or it was at such a young age where your brain wasn't forming, hasn't formed yet, and you weren't able to really actually store memories at that point in time? In which case, you shouldn't feel bad if it was any of those things that are generally out of your control, I guess. Even though this is also out of your control. Maybe because you have a strong sense of self and thus are uncomfortable with the idea of losing that grasp on yourself that you have. Yes, Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. It's one of those things that is philosophically not the only way to view it, too, and I'm aware of that. Like, but nonetheless, I feel very attached to the fact that I do have a self. Like, I have a sense. I am me. I have a sense of self. I exist in this world, and that informs how I interact with it. It's the knowing that I exist in this. I'm in this bitch. Whereas there are a lot of contending is maybe not the best word to use, but there are a lot of alternative views, philosophical views on existence in life that mayhaps aren't rooted in the, oh, I exist, or there is a self that exists, right? And I don't want to get too much into it because I'm not qualified to speak on this, but I think Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist religion and Buddhist philosophy kind of get into that whole, your sense of self is an illusion. Your desire is the root of suffering, blah, 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 all those things, which if I'd subscribed to those ideas, I wouldn't feel so strongly about these neurological diseases, I think I wouldn't. But at the moment, I'm scared shitless, so. Loss of my identity is a big fear for me. That said, I'm unsure I know what my identity is, which is its own philosophical conundrum. Yeah, like, who am I? I don't want to lose it, but, like, who am I? Do you mean loss of your identity or loss of your sense of identity? And what do you mean by losing your identity, actually? What does that even mean? Is that people don't find you special anymore? Or you don't remember who you are? Or people don't remember who you are? What is it exactly? For me, it's not knowing. Sorry. For me, it's once being known and then forgotten because I wasn't worth remembering to other people. That's scary to me. I would like to think that I'm a person worth remembering, and I want to strive to be a person worth remembering, not because I think it's like the right thing to do, but because I'm selfish and I want people to remember me. I want to go down in the history books. I want to be in people's minds. I love the idea of that too much. And it's totally selfish, totally egotistical. There's no moral justification for this. I'm aware of this, and nonetheless, I'm doing it. I think my biggest fear is forgetting who I was and everyone I've loved. But like, what if you isekai'd? Okay, you know, better yet. Hold on. I do not want to get ship of Theseus. I have an understanding of myself to some degree. I'm talking more about dementia, existential crisis, about changing enough that I don't recognize myself. I see. What if one day, all of a sudden, through some sort of divine intervention, or maybe like you stumble and you hit your head, and instead of forgetting things, right, you forget your life when you hit your head, because that's harder to imagine, because you do remember everything right now, right? Imagine instead that you stumbled and then tripped and fell over your head, and you remembered everything in your past life, or maybe not your past life, but in a life you used to live. And then somehow due to, could be time travel shenanigans or whatever. It could be something supernatural. It could be something, it could be by any stretch of the imagination, just some circumstances that have put you in this new state of being. And now you've already been living your new life here with the people who you thought were your parents and your friends, and they still are to some extent, but it turns out that you had this other life you lived that you just got up and left, and now you just remember it all again. What then? I'm sure that's like a plot. I'm sure that's the plot to at least like 5 different TV shows that people are about to like suggest to me. I've heard of premises to stories like that, but I don't think I've ever actually consumed a story with that premise. I consumed a story with that premise, so I don't know. I don't think I need to go down in history, but I'd like to make an impact on those I hold dear to me. I do, and no, but like same. But the thing is, like, when you extrapolate that, the latter half of that sentence, which is you want to make an impact on those around you, and you want to do that as much as you can, that naturally kind of goes to like, well, the best case scenario is you go down in history because of how much of that impact you've been able to make. I probably think I was living a cool ass life and now I'm a loser. Great. Would you go back to that life then? Depending on what that was. And they just abandon everyone here right now. I don't have a fear-caused fantasy scenario, but the idea of becoming someone else does piss me off. While I'm not a fan of being me, choosing to be someone else feels like a deep betrayal. It does, because it's like, I built this shit. I put the bricks together from the ground up. Only to realize this wasn't even me? That's weird. That's strange. That is strange. I don't think that scenario would impact me as much. Gaining a new identity in addition isn't as scary as losing the ones I have. But then, it's sort of a reminder that you lost an identity that you previously had. I don't know. Like, what if you had memories forcefully implanted into you, and you didn't notice that? What if you could do that? Wouldn't that be fucked up? Wouldn't it be fucked up if you had the power to put memories in people that aren't real, or like they may be real, but like, you know, they wouldn't know. How would they know? Of like a different life they lived? Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I didn't lose it if I had a full life, you know? So let's say, for sake of this, you know, thought experiment. It's not a thought experiment. For the sake of this hypothetical, that you did not live a full life. You were like kidnapped and like brought away to your now current existing life and you just didn't know it. Now that I have a current life I can live and make choices in this one, it's what's most important. It is what's most important, but like, wouldn't you always have that feeling of like wanting to go back to your older previous life? I don't know. See, if I found out my memories up to now are all fake and planted shit, I'd have an existential crisis, but it's kind of the plot of Blade Runner. It's the plot of many things. It's the plot of like many things, fake memories and all that. Like, that's not it's not a new narrative concept, but nonetheless is interesting to think about when we think of like fear of degeneration, just fear of like losing aspects of your life and identity and memory, or maybe even just gaining it. Not gaining it, because that really is losing, because it's like gaining the realization that you had lost it previously, I guess. Considering I look exactly like my parents, I'm pretty sure my life began whenever they made me. I don't think I'm missing much. Yeah, probably, unless they're actually robots and they're not real. And they were robots created to resemble you, to justify the new life you live now. If I gained past life memories, I would be sad for like 2 days because everyone I have ever loved known is dead, but will this added memory help me pass tests? Will it? It probably would. You'd have a better, you know, maybe you were extremely talented researcher of a specific field in your past life, and then now that you're completely, you know, unfamiliar with now presently, and then all of a sudden you grow savant like capabilities and are able to go back into that. Imagine making robots that function that poorly as robots. That's what we're doing right now. That's what LLMs are. Is like they're making robots intentionally function poorly as robots and more like people, by making shit up and making mistakes just to appease our human emotions. Anyways, fear of degeneration. That is a scary one. I don't want a terminal illness. Terminal illness is I don't want either, but it's much more preferable to a neurodegenerative disease. That really would suck. I don't know how to cope with that. I have no idea how to cope with that. It's been about 2 hours, so I kind of want to move on to the latter half of the discussion. Is it a half? No, it's not going to be a half, but the latter bit of the discussion. Why do we fear? Let me drink some water. Why do we feel fear? We know that we do feel fear, and there's and yes, my dear beloved Michael Vsauce Stevens, right? There's an episode of Mindfield, and it was an extra episode on fear, and it was released during like a Halloween special. It was a Halloween special released like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember by now, but it asked the question. It asked the questions of fear and what the psychological, mechanisms of it were, and how it's like a thing in the amygdala, I believe. And if you remove the amygdala, what happens? And there was this one study of someone who did not feel any fear because of some sort of neurological thing in their brains, and in that experiment, they noticed that there was one thing. I'm butchering it, I think, because it's been a long time. But the one thing that this person exhibited some sort of fear response to, even though their amygdala or whatever was missing, was a fear of like suffocation or drowning. I think it wasn't so much of the fear in the sense of like disliking the concept conceptually, like it's not it would really suck to drown or to suffocate. It was more like it was like putting the brain in some sort of simulated stimulant. I mean, was it a stimulant? Some sort of stimulated environment where, of course, there was no actual danger posed to them, but it felt as though they were drowning or suffocating, like losing the ability to breathe. And that triggered in this person the fear response that most people with proper functioning amygdalae had, which I found really interesting. But generally, right, it kind of gives us a really good answer. That gives us a really good answer for why we fear. And I think it's because it helps. It's a defensive mechanism. Fear is a defensive mechanism to keep us safe, to keep us away from the scary things. That's an easy answer, right? Like, why do we fear morbid things such as death and decay and bones and skeletons? It's because, or like, deformities, people with deformities. I can't, like, it's sort of like the idea is you're being protected, right? You seek out your kind and what is familiar to you, and through evolution we have learned to avoid things that pertain to our deaths or to our what is it? Our demise? Like, what is things that we fear usually, right? Like stuff that's scary. I remember seeing the Last of Us video essays that say the zombies are angry and run at you and eat you is because the fungus punches through the amygdala. Could be. I have no idea what that does because it's not my jurisdiction, but I imagine it could be the case. Uncanny Valley. Yeah, uncanny, right? Like uncanny, so close but not quite human, even though we've evolved to recognize human and to gravitate towards human is probably what triggers our fear. But yeah, we fear because it keeps us safe. We fear because that is a coping instinct or a defensive mechanism to ensure our survival. Probably. There's a biological explanation for why we fear. But why do we have to have those unpleasant emotions, though? Couldn't we just assume that, like, could it be not as bad? Could we not just feel a moderate amount of fear enough to know, okay, don't do that, don't touch that, don't eat that mushroom, don't wander around in the dark because you're gonna get killed by an animal, right? Someone pinged me earlier, it was you, Tara, about frogs. Yes, I have a fear of frogs. Why? Because, like, this shit's scary, and what if they were poisonous? What if they were, shit, is it poisonous or venomous? What if they were venomous frogs? Are they poisonous? Venomous is if they bite you, right? But frogs don't bite you. Frogs just secrete poison. So they would still be poisonous, I think, even though you don't eat the frogs. I'm not biting into the frogs either. So that shit keeps me safe. Poisonous, yeah. Because that shit keeps me safe. That's why. In the basic sense, fear is to keep you alive and activate the appropriate hormones and prepare you to use one of the 4 Fs. But in my sense, it's to protect you physically, emotionally, and socially. Well, nowadays, yeah, it's sort of maybe evolved. We've evolved different fears for new things in our lives to help us with our physical, emotional, and social, like, things. The things we must do. The amygdala is responsible for fight, flight, aggression, social functioning, and memory, I think. Oh, it's quite a few things. It's quite a few things. Okay. But our fear really is protecting us. That it's sort of, it exists to allow us a better shot at making it out. And I find that a little inspiring, or at least a little reassuring. It's a bit comforting to know that if I feel fear or panic or anxiety, it's because my body is trying to regulate. Not regulate, but my body's trying to adapt to the situation and provide me with the best chance to deal with it. By saying, okay, no, fuck that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, that's bad, we know that's bad, we know that's bad. So people with panic disorders, personality disorders, intermittent explosive disorders, etc. have an overactive amygdala. Autism, schizophrenia, and psychopathy are underactive. Psychopathy, excuse me. Okay, that's the amygdala. Is that why I have terrible memory? That couldn't be. But, like, I'm scared all the time. Doesn't explain that. Whatever. Anyways, point is, fear is good. Fear itself is good. The fear itself is actually not to be feared. So yeah, nothing to fear but fear itself. No, that's bullshit. No, fear is good. Don't fear fear. Fear all the other things that are trying to kill you. You should fear that, yes. But you shouldn't let your fear dictate what you do. Likewise, you shouldn't let any of your emotions dictate what you do. You should let them influence what you do. And you should pay very careful attention to how you feel about things all the time. But that shouldn't be the only way you make decisions.
What's the amygdala?
Wait, that's hippocampus. Okay, thank you, Hannah Z, my dear mod, for fucking up and providing the wrong definitions for everyone. Now we have no idea what we're talking about anymore when it comes to the parts of the brain that fear for itself. If you'd like to indulge me, Charis, could you talk about injustice as a source of fear? The basic fear that evil will triumph over good, of socio-political issues that humanity itself will end. I can indulge you, sure. Injustice is a source of fear. A source of, so that's where it comes from, is injustice itself, like the fact that it exists, or is it perceived injustice? Is it
I just don't know what.
Is it a fear that injustice may come to pass, or that injustice is inevitable, or that currently there is injustice? What is it exactly? No, I was right about the list. It's just the hippocampus is also important for memory. It's processing and storing emotional memories. Okay. Grief, loss, etc., etc. Okay. I can't even make fun of you because a few years ago I was acting exactly like you. I was afraid of everything. Okay, no, I'm not afraid of everything and being paralyzed from action. I do not let my fear stop me from acting. I let it inform my acting. That it will come to pass out of those options. Okay. That evil will triumph over good. Socio-political issues, that humanity itself will end. Extinction events probably won't happen. They're fairly unlikely. And if they do happen, I wouldn't even... I don't know if it would be evil. It would be hard to say immediately. If it were like a specific human action that caused it, then yes. But I want to think that an extinction level event would probably be out of our control. Not our, like, you and I, but like out of humanity's control. But actually, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Fear of the injustice. I don't fear it, but I feel strongly about it. I find myself ruminating on injustice and on evil things coming to pass and depressing states of the world and socio-political happenings. Doing bad. Like, those things will make... those things will create, or they will lead to, suffering and displeasure and discontentment and just exacerbation of current existing issues. Is that a word? Or did I just say something that I might have regret saying? I don't know. Okay, anyways. I don't fear injustice. I really want to like follow that up with something cheesy like injustice fears me, and then kind of like scowl and look upwards towards the light for the Charis Euphranor signal. But like, truthfully, I think it's less a fear in like a because fear to me is I'm paralyzed. Like, not paralyzed, maybe. Not necessarily, at least. But there's an uncertainty, there's an anxiety. It's like, I don't know. Oh my god, what's gonna happen? I don't see injustice that way. I see injustice as, like, it will always be around. And I need to put a constant effort to address it. Like, I need to always be thinking about it. I need to always be acting against it. Because... people will be motivated by greed and lose sight of humanity, of their own humanity, and everyone else's humanity, and make stupid ass decisions that prioritize what they perceived as good, but is in actuality like not. Whatever that may mean. And then we're going to go into ethics. We're going to go into like ethical theories, but I don't want to, because that shit's boring. To me, at least. So it's not a fear in that I feel anxious. I feel anxiety when I think, oh no, what are terrible people going to say about minority groups or whatever. Like, they're going to say terrible, evil shit. They are going to do that. That's not uncertain to me. Injustice is actually very certain. Because of, you know, human nature and all that, whatever. And my response to it is also certain. That shit don't fly. That's my response. Is like, I'm not having any of that. How do we take this down? How do we deal with this? And that creates, to me, a fair amount of certainty that causes not a lot of fear, a lot of annoyance, maybe a lot of frustration, lots of, like, you know, back and forth and struggle, and is it even worth it? Like, oh my god, I'm tired, I want to break. But, like, not really fear. I don't feel fear. I had to really think about that, so thank you for the question, Tia. Constant effort to address a good answer, thank you. Ethics is boring? Yeah, it is, because it's like... Because I don't like it, because I don't care for ethics. Ethics more like methics. True. True. I say that probably because I'm not very good at it too, but like... part of the reason why I think ethics is uninteresting is because when you try to have a conversation, an ethical conversation about like some sort of moral issue or dilemma with people, it becomes sort of circular. Not many people have interesting things to say about ethics. It really comes down to trolley problem. If you pull lever, you are Kantian. You are a deontologist, and you are Immanuel Kant. That's the only thing he did. He didn't write any other books. Maybe he wrote one other book, Critique of Pure Reason, but nobody read that, so who cares about what he had to say there? All we know is he's the guy who said, your intentions matter, and if the axe murderer shows up to your house, you're not allowed to lie. And then on the other hand is utilitarianism. Wow, if you pull the lever and the trolley problem, then that means you are utilitarian, because that means you prioritize the most amount of lives. And then, but actually, what if a utility monster shows up? And it's just like, I can't it's circular. Like, this doesn't go any, I'm not saying it can't go anywhere. Ethical discussions can go to interesting places, but 95% of the ethical conversations I've ever unfortunately been witness to have not gone anywhere interesting. Utility monster? Yeah, it's basically the idea that, like, what if there was a monster or an entity that experienced...
You never had a proper discussion with the concept of justice personified, clearly.
Yeah, sure. That's true. I'll be waiting for that. I'm telling Exeon, you can. I need to argue with him about something, because, like, we're too agreeable, I think. Exeon and I, in our collab, and, like, generally just in our, like, chats, have been... I think we've been way too amicable to each other. There needs to be some sort of, like... There's got to be some sort of mudslinging. There's got, like... He's got a PhD, okay? Surely he's got to know something I don't, or he's got to have a perspective I don't, that I'm going to be too prideful to admit that I was wrong in, and then we're going to have a whole debate over it. We'll see. We'll see. Sorry, anyways, sorry, I didn't finish explaining it, but a utility monster is an entity that consumes, that is much happier per one utility of consumption, or is it like they experience much more utility than the average person for the same amount of resources? So, for example, you imagine a fucked up human being. It's the only way I can put it. Who, like, is so much happier when you give them one loaf of bread than if you give anyone else a loaf of bread. So much so that a utilitarian would say, okay, to maximize the greatness for the world, you must surely give the utility monster more bread, because the utility monster gets so much more utility out of that bread than anyone else does. And you just kind of extrapolate that, and you kind of go into the, oh, but utilitarianism is about the greatest number of people, and then it's like, oh, well, what constitutes the number of people? And it's like, it's all just so circular. And ironically, okay, it's not helpful. Ironically, so much of ethics in my experience has not really helped me make decisions. Because at the end of the day, I'm not really worried about doing the right thing. I'm worried about doing in general. That's more what I'm worried about. But I don't know. Maybe it's also like a cynical part of me that thinks like, you're never going to educate world leaders on ethical theory. Like, it's just not going to happen. So why bother? Sound comes from the deep south. He has my vote for the boxing stream. Once again, you want to have a dog shit opinion that you're too normy for. Okay. How much, fuck, it's not related at all to this discussion, but like, how much Makoto Shinkai lampooning do I have to do before someone finally steps in and goes like, wait a minute, that's a treacherous, horrible opinion to have. How could you? How much more? Should world leaders be educated, or should they consult educated people? Neither. They should be allowed to do whatever they want, because, well, I'm the president. I get to do what I want. And they should not be held to any ethical, moral standards. Everything they say should just go. And they should not be held accountable for any of the negative things that may come from their actions. Only the positive ones. And if there aren't enough, we should just make it up. Mid-anime director? Yes. Yes. That's what I'm saying. All the Shinkai stuff is mid. Charis trying to maximize his APM as an ethical stance. I don't truly think I have a sophisticated enough ethical stance. Anyways, sorry, where were we? Why do we fear? Why do we fear? We fear to protect ourselves. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. It's not a great, interesting answer, but it's sort of like, I think probably the most conclusive one. It has a lot of explanatory power. And also it does satisfy me, at least. I am able to cope with the phenomena of fear a lot better, knowing that it's there to protect me. Have you seen any movies by Satoshi Kon? No, I haven't. Not yet. I will eventually. Perfect Blue watch along one. I'll watch Perfect Blue eventually. I will. Is there anything else about fear? Let me think. So we covered what I feared. We covered why I fear, or why we fear. We have covered when we fear, and that's October during Halloween month when I play the horror games. That's when we fear. I think that's it. Okay. Is there anything? I don't think there's anything else worth discussing that would be relevant enough to the stream, but is also not just going to drag it out for like 5 more hours of pointless meandering. This is a good sort of primer into the fear, into the theme of fear, I suppose. Personally, I am fearful. I'm fearful. Personally, right now, I'm fearful because I just realized, like, I have to start playing horror games this week. No. Okay. All right. I don't like it. I'm not okay. Maybe we can talk about things I'm not afraid of. I'm not afraid of roller coasters. I am not afraid generally of thrill rides in amusement parks. Generally speaking. There is one ride that strikes fear into my soul. Not when I'm thinking about it, but when I'm on it, cuz it's weird, right? There's this one ride in an amusement park that I'd gone to that I'd visited multiple times too, because I wanted to make sure, right? But there's this ride where you're on the vehicle, and it's like a U shape, I think. And the vehicle just kind of goes up the ramp and then down the ramp, or like it's a not up and down. It's more like how do I describe the motion of it? I can't describe. I'm describing it with my hands. I'm trying to show you with my hands, and I forget that you can't see my hands. So it's essentially you sit in the vehicle and you're facing forwards, right? It goes up and slant and turns up so that you're now facing the sky, right? And it goes up for a bit, and then it comes back down. That bit doesn't scare me. Nothing. I feel totally fine. It does the same shit in reverse. So now instead of facing the sky, you're facing like the ground. And they kind of like leave you dangling in the air for a second before they bring you back down. And conceptually, it doesn't scare me. Like as I'm talking about it now, I'm like, I feel as though, oh yeah, I could do it again. But then I've done it multiple times, and every time I've done it without fail, whenever I get to that part where it dangles me in the air for a second and I'm staring at the ground, like my heart sinks down to my stomach, and like I'm paralyzed, and I'm genuinely like I can't breathe properly at that moment. Like I don't know why. I come back down and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fine now, I think. But like at that moment, it's paralyzing fear. I don't know why. Can't you bring up a picture of the ride? No, because I don't want to dox myself. Who, where, when, why, what, and how do we fear? Okay, we did what? We did why. How is more like we kind of did, and it's more of a biology question. It's kind of related to the why. Or I suppose like the why can be like, the why, if you think about it, right, is more okay, but like why do we need to feel this subjective sensation of fear in order for it to have those biological effects that it does? No damn clue. Feels like the type of hard problem that isn't one to be solved, but who knows. When and where we've established it's October of this channel. So who, I guess, is the only one left from that. Almost blowing out my voice from speaking at a normal volume because my family is arguing about what to do for dinner. I need a new set of vocal cords. I have a joke answer every time someone asks me what to have for dinner. I just say beef bowls, and it just works. Because sometimes we get beef bowls, and sometimes people don't feel like beef bowls. And then the moment you make that suggestion, they'll immediately have another answer. So the solution to not knowing what to do for dinner is like have one default option, and if people don't like it, they'll say that they don't like it. Beef balls? No, beef bowls. Like Yoshinoya. Like Japanese beef bowls. Is there any contemporary media that scares you? Do you mean contemporary media that is not meant to scare that scares me? In which case, no, I don't think so. If the intention was not to scare, then no. I said I'm not hungry a good 6 times. My mom said, what do you want for dinner? I'm not going to eat dinner, so it does not matter. Okay, but like, what do you want for dinner? You should ride the cyclone. I don't know what that is. I might. Who do I fear? Gyudon enjoyer? Only all the time, yes. Who do I fear? I don't think I've ever... Have I ever feared anyone? No. I never feared, like... I never feared my parents. I never... Thankfully, right? I never really felt feared towards... I never felt feared towards my parents. I never felt feared towards any authority figures. I think maybe I used to fear... No, not like a specific person. I used to fear, like... criminals. And I think, like, when I was really, really young, there was a point in my life where I feared people with mental disabilities that cause certain things, such as, like, you know, uncontrollable, like, poor muscle control. Because, you know, I was a child and I didn't really know what that was, and I did not suffer from those issues, and I didn't know why. I didn't even know that was what was going on. I just saw someone with like strangely poor muscle control, and I was like, that's freaking me out. So, like, you know, and then, you know, when I learned what that was, I didn't feel fear anymore. I felt a lot of sympathy. But before that, I felt fear, I guess. Other than that, I don't think I feared any person. I was in Oh, and no, I you know what I feared? I feared when, like, this was years ago, but I was walking home, and I was walking home in the dark, and someone offered me drugs, and I feared that like the potential would-be drug dealer made me fear for my life, because I said no politely, and I was like, no, thank you. But then in my head, immediately as I said that, I thought, oh no, what if he thinks I'm a cop? He's gonna... And then he would kill me. As if either of those things were probable. Like, they weren't. Why would he think that I was a cop? I'm like the least cop looking person. And secondly, if he did think that, why would he want to kill me? I don't know. Shouldn't he fear me more? I have no idea. You fear women? No. No. I fear women who are very attractive and also really nice people. And, like, are just generally, like, they're just... Like, they've got too much... They've got too many good things going on. I fear them because I'm like, what are they hiding? What's going on here? Like, why do you just have no flaws? Why are you just a perfect person? Why are you not suffering like the rest of us? Something's up here. Then I fear. Because I'm like, you know, there's probably... They have to be, like, really fucked up, right? Like, there's got to be something going on there. Overthinking final boss. He fears strong women. That's not what I said. It's not what I said. No, because, like, I don't fear pretty women who are dumb. Or pretty women who are inconsiderate, because then I'm like, you know, because then your power level kind of sinks down once that happens. I kind of go like, you know, this doesn't matter to me and you don't matter to me. But then if it's like, if it's an attractive woman who also is incredibly kind and passionate and also incredibly intelligent and capable and confident, then I'm like, okay, what's going on? I don't know what to do anymore. Shit. Why? Because I'm like a straight man. That's why. Chairman, do you fear me? I fear nobody here, so you're fine. Don't worry. Wow, you really said that. I know, I'm really brave. Stop tomatoing me. Stop tomatoing me. Do I fear anyone else? No, I don't think I fear anyone else. I fear... I don't fear police officers, but I am wary around them. Like, I'm cautious around them. I don't fear them in the sense of like, because I'm not American, right? I don't really have to, but if I was, I might fear like a police officer. And anyone who I might fear, I'm not saying there's no one in the world I would fear. There are probably plenty of people in the world I would actually fear. I also just don't exist near them or around them. Because they probably don't, maybe not fear. Maybe fear is not the right word for them. But they probably hate me and they probably wouldn't be around me anyway, so I don't think, I'm safe. I'm fairly safe. Do you fear the British equivalent of the IRS? No, I pay my taxes. I don't know why I do, because like I'm unemployed and shit, but like I do. Alright, my concurrent viewership is starting to drop. I think people are leaving now. So I'm going to wrap up this stream and say that thank you for the discussion of fear. That's about everything I wanted to say and talk about. If there's anything more, we can talk about that shit next week or the week after. That's totally fine. This whole month is dedicated to thinking about fear. And that kind of includes engaging in fear. Or maybe, fearing a little bit, at least, by playing some horror games. So we're going to do that. What characters are you afraid of? I'm not afraid of characters. Characters don't scare me. That's not really a thing. If you leave, I will cry /J. Thankfully, that's not... I don't fear that, thankfully. When's your next stream and what will you be doing? I don't know. Not tomorrow. I need tomorrow off. I need to rest. I think next stream will either be Monday or Wednesday. Because I don't really stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it'll either be Monday or Wednesday. We'll read something probably, so it'll be an unarchived stream too, and then we'll play a game, and then we will maybe watch something, perhaps as a watch along on Discord. I will put up a schedule tomorrow though. I'll try to. Yeah, but I feared. Is my opinion not important? Is that a rhetorical question? Aren't you scared of the xenomorphs in Alien Isolation? Yeah, I am, but like I'm not scared of them like in the sense of like, oh, it's the xenomorph from Alien Isolation. If I see an image of it, it's like whatever. I'm scared of the potency of the game and how it will be able to instill fear in me as I immerse myself as a character in that game. You will be scared of some Little Nightmares 2 Creatures Trust. I know that, yeah, but like, not because of the character, but because of the game. Bye. From what you've said today, you're a strong person, and I like that. Thank you. That is not common. That's people don't say that a lot. But thank you for the compliment, Tia. And thank you for everyone for bringing. Okay, thank you everyone for bringing good questions. These are good questions. Thank you, everyone. What are we doing a watch along of? I don't know. Haven't decided. We'll see. Anyways, goodbye. Goodbye. See everyone on Monday or Wednesday. Probably Monday. You will know tomorrow.